I'm kind of grumpy about that. I don't know where that happened to. But you know what? It's all good. Again, I'm also recording this just in case everything falls apart. Because that happens sometimes. I'm maintaining good eye contact with you. So I switched everything up yesterday and we hung up this curtain. So it worked out pretty good, actually. I'm impressed. Plus it looks really nice. Also, last week, we decided, the royal we meaning me and 3 people who were watching live, decided that since I'm running out of ideas and I'm also trying to teach you math, what we're going to do is we're going to do Corvid courses on Mondays, which is this, with the pink background. We're going to do Algebra 2 on Wednesdays, and we're going to do Algebra 1 on Fridays. That way you get, you can stop in. Good morning, Lauren. So I have my cool setup now. I'm a real YouTuber, you guys. Did you check out my cool avatar too? My hair is no longer purple. It's turned into this kind of pinkish, reddish color with some brown streaks, but lives are not as important. No, lives are definitely more important than hair color, so we're just going to stick it out. My video keeps refreshing, and it's kind of scaring me, but you know what? It's going to be fine. It's going to be good. Let me tell you about my background with interviews. First of all, I'm a real working adult, so I have interviews that I've done. But also, in my last teaching job, I was a junior advisor, and as a junior advisor, what we did was we interviewed the kids as their final. So what you're going to see on the screen is the interview questions that we actually asked as a final project, and I'm going to tell you some of my favorite answers and some of my least favorite answers, and what we're really looking for. These are very general questions. We found some of them on websites that it's been literally 5 years now, so I don't know where we got them from. But some of them were from like Google and Microsoft and stuff like that. The real questions that they ask, those are the super weird ones. And then there's normal questions like, tell me about yourself. So we're going to walk through those. But first, let's get ready for our interview today. What we want is some sort of outfit that instills confidence in us without being too outward. Because a lot of times, the person who's interviewing you, might be somebody who's older than you, right? Your age doesn't usually do interviews, and so things like crazy eye color, even eyeshadow, or like a contact lens that's bright blue or something might distract them to the point where they can't focus on you as a person. So don't lie about yourself to an interviewer, but also I wouldn't necessarily be 100% all out how cool you are. So I personally probably wouldn't even wear a shirt and tie, because people who do interviews probably aren't as accepting of androgynous dress. They like things like skirts and pearls and things like that. But we're going to tie a tie. But before I do that, we're going to put on some, this is the extent of my beauty channel. We're going to put on some, little touch of mascara. Is that what this is called? Yeah. And the only reason I'm doing this is because, 1, it's nice and light, and 2, it makes me feel better, right? It makes me feel more confident. For those of you who are into this kind of thing, I'm using Roller Lash by Benefit, which is literally my only mascara in the house, and I've probably had this for 5 years. No, probably 2. I've had one for 5 years, but I did get a refresher once it ran out. See, I feel so pretty. I don't usually use like gaudy earrings. Sometimes I even feel like my one second hole piercing's too much, so I have like a gold one I put in. Nice pearls if you have it. Most people don't. But if they're like super dangly, you just don't want to distract them. You don't want to distract the person who's interviewing you, because if they get distracted, then who you are as a person might not, work as well. Okay, I know how to tie a tie because my father taught me when I was in high school or middle school, and he said that was like, why do I need to know how to tie a tie, Dad? My thing just refreshed and I don't know why. It's fine. I was like, why do I need to tie a tie? I'm never going to wear a tie. First of all, that was a lie. Because I cosplay sometimes. Like, low-key cosplay. That's the only reason I have this shirt, by the way. Is because I was an undercover Diana Prince. Wonder Woman. And I have a Gryffindor. I'm a Ravenclaw, but I have a Gryffindor costume. We'll talk about that later. No, we won't. Okay, so to tie a tie, I have this little... So there's two ends to a tie, right? There's the big fatty end and there's the little end. So to tie a tie, I have the tie all the way up here. Okay. I want this to be as short of a tail as possible, and I might even have to do this twice because I overestimate how long this should be. Because we're going to pull it and it's going to become the same length. Okay. So we cross this over. So the bigger part goes on top. Okay. And then we kind of fold it under. So it's... I literally folded it under. And then we go one more time. Fold over. So I have this kind of loop around the middle part. And then we stick the big fatty end up and through the necktie part. And then this is that loop that I made. It goes down into the loop. There's names for these, y'all. It's like a half Windsor knot. It's the easiest one. Okay, so see how that I tightened it up? It's called a half Windsor knot because it's kind of sideways, right? Like it goes like this. And that's by the nature of how I tied it. There's a full Windsor knot where you go around twice, basically, and then put it up and through. My father did not teach me that one. And then we just pull the short end down. Ooh, this was I over-exaggerated how short that should be, because look how long my tie is compared to that. Okay. It's down like to my knees when I'm sitting. So I would fix this, but it looks good enough on camera. You don't know that it's so long. The cool thing about ties, though, is that if I loosen this, I can just take it off. And if I pull, it'll just undo. So that's pretty cool. Some tie connoisseur is going to get really mad at me. And you know what? That's when I know that I'm going to get it big. That's when I'm going to know that I did it right. Because somebody is grumpy at me for how to tie a tie. I think that Lauren, last week you said that you knew already, and Maya said she had a clip-on, so this might be good for somebody else later. But I got my tie on, did my makeup. Morning, Maya. Maya, you got your clip-on. I talked about you before I knew you were here. For reasons. Oh, and then there's this thing on the back. That's usually where you stick the end in. But again, I made it super long, so I can't do that. Maybe I'll just stick it in here. That way it doesn't open up and flap around. Okay, I'm ready for my interview. Thank you, Lauren. Message me. I don't want to put my, I don't want to get my notes out. I'm really mad at this. It's opening. But I can flip this back so at least it looks better. Lauren, please let me know. I got a whole list from Josie too. So that actually makes me feel better because I was worried I wouldn't be able to even continue Mondays. But let's keep it going. I think I want to do cover letters since I'm kind of in an interview spirit. So we might do cover letters on Monday. Get the whole trifecta of getting a job. But, okay, so let's talk about interview skills. Once again, these are ones that I found online like 5 years ago when I forgot where I got them, so I can't, I'm so sorry, I can't quote where I got them. I'm a bad teacher right now. It'll be fine, it's okay. So, this is how it usually gets broken down. Usually they ask you something on this list. And I have a separate slide where I turn around and I'm the interviewers. So we'll just have fun with this. I'm a good YouTuber, you guys. Yes. Okay, yeah, send those to me. Okay, so here's my list. The most common one is tell me about yourself or summarize your work history and education for me. This is called the 30-second pitch. So what that means is, for feel like I'm too far over. What the heck? Oop, wrong way. No, it's fine. What that means is this should not be this should not be you reciting your resume. Okay. This is you explaining to the people who are interviewing you in a nutshell who you are. Okay. Whenever I do an interview, like a day before I know I have an interview, or the day that I know I have an interview, I'll write. These are my old ones. I haven't looked at these since I did the job interview. Okay. I'll write down all the stuff that I want to cover. Now this is specifically teaching. And here's my little about me section. Oh, it's fine, I don't know. My little about me section says, Darrington High School math teacher, and I told myself to list all the math that I've done, because it's impressive, let's be real. Sonoma School District as a substitute, and then Western. That's my thing. So that's all I want to tell them immediately, because all the rest of this, I want it to come out in their interview, so that way they don't feel like I'm just gonna word vomit on them. Okay, same thing here. Here's my little note card. I don't know what order these go in. I can probably figure it out. But I got more and more robust, I think, as I went. Yeah, whatever. I don't know what order these are in. But what I do is I have these, okay? I always remake these because my teaching style has changed, my interview style has changed, my background's changed. I'm a different person. I'm not the same person as when I interviewed for Darrington, or when I interviewed for here at Mount Vernon. If I were to go somewhere else, it would be a different interview. So I always make a new one of these, and then I'll have this with me, because I freak myself out in the car, and when I freak myself out in the car, I get all like stressed out and think that I'm going to do everything wrong. So I have this so that way why am I loading? Silly. It's fine. I don't care. I care a little bit, but whatever. I'm still dropping 63% of my frames. Okay. But I'll have this in the car with me so that way I can refresh what I want to know, or what I want to cover when I'm doing my interview. So let's talk about it. Here. So I'm going to be my interviewer. Ready? Tell me about yourself. And what the interviewer's going to do is, if there's only one of them, they're going to ask you a question and immediately look at their clipboard and start writing down the answers. And the reason they do that is because they're going to go back through all the interviewees that they have interviewed that day, and they're going to look through and see who they liked the best. So writing down, I don't like how long there we go. Writing down what you said makes it so that way they can go back later and say, I think they said this. Okay. I really don't like how long this is refreshing. It's fine. If there's more than one person, what's going to happen is they're going to go around in a circle and switch off asking a question. They're not going to ask all of these. These are crazy long. They would ask maybe one that's an introduction-based question. Okay, so I would say, my name is Grace Willard, and I work at Mount Vernon High School, and I teach Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. And this is specifically if I'm looking for a math teacher job. If I was a high school student, I might say, my name is Grace Willard, I go to Mount Vernon High School, and I am looking forward to this job here, whatever it is. Maybe your background's in babysitting, or you have some lawn mowing experience, something like that. What you also can highlight is any sports that you're in, because interviewers like to have some sort of real connection to your life. Otherwise, they just think you're a person, maybe lying to them. They don't always think that, but... Okay, so that would be some sort of, like, about me. Whenever I do it, I tell them where I went to high school, where I went to college, and where I've taught in the last, like, two teachings. I wouldn't mention Snohomish if I'm talking about my next job. I would say Darrington and Mount Vernon. Okay. Next, they'll ask you something about work history. Now, if you don't have a job, this is your very first job, you might have to tie it in with either your any extracurriculars you do, like sports, any teacher you have that you consider like a boss. So like what's your work history? You can say, well, for the most part, I just do babysitting jobs. I'm looking for my first job now. But if they ask you something like this, like 1 or 2 of your major accomplishments, you could highlight a big paper that you did or a presentation that you had. You could highlight a time that you were team spirit leader for your high school softball team. I don't know. Is that too soon? No softball this year. Again, if they ask you any advice for your previous boss, you can say something like, well, my previous boss was my mother when I was babysitting, but maybe for a teacher I can answer this question. The goal here is that it's not just, let me be a bad, not a terrible. Let's say that I want to answer the, any advice for your previous boss question. I'm not going to say, well, don't be such a jerk. Nothing like that. Maybe it's, hey, I would love more communication. Or, thank you so much for that time that you helped me with this thing. I was really struggling and I appreciate it. I'm trying to be, it's weird because I'm trying to be specific and vague at the same time. Because I want it to work for anybody, but also they really need a specific example and not something that's just short and sweet. The more, I don't know if you can always see that they have a clipboard with all the questions on it and they write stuff down. The more that you can help them fill in the space, the better it'll be in the long run. And you really do want personalized examples of a time that you did blah, blah, blah. Here's them asking about education. Why did you choose your major? Why did you choose this job shadow? What job-related skills have you developed? Maybe you haven't developed any job-related skills, but you have. It's a thing that you do. Let's say that I am a high school student and I want to go into just a retail job. So my boss or the interviewer says, what job-related skills have you developed? And I say, well, is that weird? Is that weird that I'm switching my face around? I am very good at time management. I'm good with deadlines. I have never turned in a paper late. I have 100% attendance, except for that one time I was sick. But otherwise, and even that time I emailed my teacher and I let them know I was going to be gone that day and got caught up right away. Something like that. So your time management, you can talk about. Don't just say I have good time management. Let's say I have good time management. An example of this is that time that I did a research project, and part of the project was different deadlines, and we had certain days that we went to the library to look up things. I'm using my old time examples because we actually went and looked in encyclopedias and stuff. So I'm so old. I have like a bump on my lip. That's fine. And I kept a note card with all of the due deadlines on it and checked them off as I went. So that's an example of a time that you had good time management instead of just saying that you have a good time management. Also, no, don't drink tea during your interview. And if you have a water bottle with a lot of random stickers on it, I have that. I just leave it at home or in the car. Don't take your phone in, don't take your keys in. Just you and the interviewer. They want to know you for who you are. Okay. Oh, that was the wrong button. There we go. They might ask you to tell them about yourself. The most common ones used to be greatest strength, greatest weakness, but people BS those enough that they've kind of changed those. But I still see them sometimes. So they might do 3 adjectives would you use to describe yourself. If you don't know, actually, if I say that one, what 3 adjectives would you use to describe yourself? I might say things like organized, kind, and a good helper, which is kind of like kind, it's the same. But I would have to explain all those 3 things. Even if they don't ask you to explain them in the question, they really want to know a specific time that you did that thing. Describing a time when you overcame an obstacle. Identify the obstacle. Identify the period in your life that it was. Who helped you? How did you help yourself? All those things are important parts of this. You don't just say, I did that one time when I was 12. Or whatever it was. Now, this is the kind of thing where what you really should do is have specific, where'd those papers go? Have specific things that you want to highlight in your interview, and then bring it up when it comes up. So let's see, when I want to describe a time that I overcame an obstacle, but I really want them to know about how I'm trying to look at my notes here. I wrote on the bottom, smart, powerful, capable, amazing. I need to read these again more often. Okay. So one of the obstacles might have been the LEAP packet. I'm going to read that in a second, Maya. We had a LEAP packet that was just recycled every year, and it was the same thing. And so a friend of mine and I came up with this crazy idea, and I actually made it work. It was mostly his crazy idea that I made happen. But that would be an obstacle, was having an outdated system and then explaining what I did about it. Maya on the chat says she saw a thing and it said if an interviewer asks 3 adjectives but you can't think of anything, just use some words from your Hogwarts house. Which is an awesome way to do that. So having your, your Hufflepuff words. That's super smart. Also, I don't think of what I would say about myself. I think about like what my boyfriend or my mom or somebody that knows me pretty well and has my best interest at heart would say about me. What would my sister say, basically? Coping with conflict too. They might ask you about that. I'm using my mouse like you can see what I'm looking at right here. So what was a time that somebody you had a conflict with, and then what did you do about it? Let's talk about greatest strength, greatest weakness really quick. If you do get asked this question, your greatest strength can be whatever you think about yourself. I'm very organized. I'm a huge, I had to rearrange this whole thing just to become more organized because it was stressing me out. I'm not organized in terms of my house, but I am organized in terms of my work. So that might be mine. Yours might be that you're very kind. You might not think that you have a greatest strength, but you have to kind of BS this one, because if you say there's nothing strong about me, they're not going to want to hire you. So they want somebody in that has more confidence than that. And I'm so sorry to say that. But when we get to greatest weakness, the common one that they say online is I work too hard. That's a BS line. They know that. They've heard that before. A true answer to this greatest weakness question is something that you had an issue with before and overcame, which is hard to do, I know. Because if you had an issue before but overcame it, it's really no longer a weakness, but it's still a weakness inside. Okay, so I'm just going to give my example of this doing working from home stuff. Okay. My greatest weakness in terms of this is taking breaks for myself. I don't remember to eat lunch. I don't stop at 4, or I didn't used to. So what I did was I set time limits for myself. Right around noon or 12:30, I get up to make lunch. And then right around 4, I start wrapping up my day. One thing that I've done to help myself with that is ask my live-in partner to help me stop at 4. But another thing that maybe I could do, if that didn't work, is my next steps would be to set an alarm for myself. My cleaning while you're bored is absolutely a strength. I don't know if it's a strength that you would say exactly like that, but what you can say is that whenever there's downtime, I am always cleaning. So if you're trying to get a job in customer service, you might say something like, one of my greatest strengths in this position is that I can't just stay still. So if there's downtime and if there's no customers around, I will find something to do, find something to pick up, or find something to clean. And that's one of my greatest strengths that I would bring to this position. Okay? Easy. I I also wouldn't say things like, I clean when I'm stressed. Like, I think we all do, because I think we talked about that in my stress episode. I wouldn't say that, because you don't want your work to stress you out. But yeah, you all have strengths, you just have to figure them out. And what you can do is ask somebody that knows you what they would say, or like when they would come ask you for help or whatever it is, because they'll know. Okay, let's talk about motivation. They also might ask you like where you're going in 5 years, especially if it's an entry-level position. And you don't have to say married to this company and never leaving again. Okay, so where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's weird because I get shorter on the second one, I think. I see myself becoming a math teacher, or whatever your future goal is, right? So you could say that I see myself saving up my money from this job to help myself go to college or get myself through college, and then in 5 years I want to be, and this really is work related. It's not I want to be the mother of 7 children and working barefoot on a farm. That could be your dream. We don't say it that way though. No judgment. These are other questions that you could be asked, but the most common one would be, where do you see yourself in 5 years, or how does this position enable you to reach your goals? And if they ask you that one, it's all about those. If it's not related, it's all about those transferable skills. So learning how the structure of a business works, or being able to help customers would help me. Stopping. There we go. I don't know where I lost you, so I'm just going to keep going. What your backup plan is probably looking for a job just like this, because it's perfect for you, right? This one's not as common, this ending up winning $10 billion or whatever, but they don't want to say that they don't want you to say that you would quit your job that you just got. They don't want to hear stuff like that. Maybe turning it in is good. And these aren't like gotcha questions. They're all actually asking you things to see how you react, what you would do. All right. Presenting. They will ask you this if it's something that you're going to be in charge of somebody for. At college, we had academic student advisors, who these are the kinds of questions that they would be asked. What's your experience with making presentations? They don't usually do the teach me something I don't know in the next 5 minutes, because that's a lot of time in an interview, when interviews are only like 15 to 20 minutes long anyways. But I really enjoyed asking what's the funniest thing that has happened to you recently, because I got some real answers. Like, people would light up and giggle and all that kind of stuff. Let's say you're not comfortable speaking in front of groups. How comfortable are you speaking in front of groups? Did I transition right? Okay. We would say something like, if you're not, I'm just going to assume that you're not. I am, because I'm a teacher. That's what I do. You could say something like, I have a pretty low comfortability with that, but I am absolutely willing to step out of my shell and take some pointers. Or you could say something like, that's not really, I'm more of a not back seat, that's the wrong word. I'm a background kind of worker, and I really would prefer working in the office or something like that. Okay, there's a place for you, no matter where it is. Problem solving. These are the kinds of questions that we got when we looked up stuff from like Google and Microsoft and stuff like that. These are the kinds of problem solving skills that we don't expect you to actually know the answer to. Right? How many Big Macs does McDonald's sell each year in the US? Only somebody who really works for McDonald's would know that. But what we're trying to figure out is what your reaction to this is. So, why are manholes round? Oh, I've never been asked that question before. I'm really glad that you asked. Let me think about this. If it was a square manhole, it might be harder to remove. And also harder to place back in, because if it's twisted, maybe it'll go through wrong. So I assume that manholes are round so that way they don't fall into the sewers. Okay. Versus, how many children are born each day? I don't know. I'm bad at math. Which of those people is going to get that job, you guys? Come on. People are aware that there's people out there who aren't good at math, but those aren't the kinds that they want to hire. You can be bad at math. I'm surprised that you're bad at math and in my class, but whatever. You can be bad at math, but still decent at problem solving. So it's really how you approach a problem and not whether or not you can do the math in your head. Okay. Some of them will even ask you like a basic math question and just see, they want to see if you freeze or if you can tackle it. That's the goal with this kind of question. This is not very flattering on me. I have like a flat chin. It's fine, but I'm mad at it. Be confident, Miss Willard. Oops. This is if you're going into maybe a leadership position, like a key holder at a retail environment, something like that. So, describe a time when you delegated responsibilities to group members. Well, in my English class, and we're going to be very specific about this again, right? In my English class, we had a project where we had to make a children's book, and we each had a job we had to do. And so something I did was we made deadlines depending on what the thing was and if somebody else needed it afterwards, and gave full ownership over it as long as we were on the same page. And then we told them what the outcome was, and we say, we received a B+ on that project, and I'm really proud of it, and I still have that book, or something like that. Or we were published. This is really bad because I'm making things up that I shouldn't be. Here's my tea. Would you like some? I love the answers I get to the what would you do if you're approached by an employee who's complaining about a coworker's horrible body odor. Because some people have very interesting ways of tackling that. A common one might be to have an all-staff meeting about body odor, so that way they don't feel as targeted. Don't do it like Michael Scott would. Maybe just have like free-floating soap. I've ever gotten soap as a Christmas present before. It's kind of weird. Do I smell bad? Why did you give me perfume? It's buffering again. It's fine. Here's some more questions they might ask you about your stress levels. How do you cope with pressure? Give me an example of a time when you worked well under pressure. That's a pretty common one. What do you think you'll hate about this job is not as common, but don't BS that one either. If it's the long hours, it's the long hours. If it's being away from your family, it's being away from your family. But also tell them how you're going to either put up with it or change it. That would be good. Let us see it's still stress tolerance on the screen. Okay, let's talk about job performance, right? How do you receive feedback? Do you prefer working alone or in groups? The real answer to that is that you're good at both, but you might actually have one that you prefer. So you could say something like, well, I work best in groups because I'm a social person and having others there to keep me accountable really helps. But I have good time management skills and I'm good at working alone on a project as well. Something like that. Creativity. What kind of problems people called on you to solve? Tell me how you solve them. So Maya just said that she's terrible with groups with the job performance one. And you can say, I prefer working alone because I do a lot better when I can just focus on my work. But I am capable of working in groups. Even if you're horrible with them, I'm sure you're capable. Describing the color yellow to somebody who is blind is kind of one of those problem-solving skills. I think that one was from Google. Not like looking it up from Google, but the Google sample questions. I had one that I loved. I don't remember who it was, but they were like, it's like the warmth of a summer day. It's the brightness of a light bulb. The brightness of the warmth of a light bulb, maybe. It was very good. I did it wrong again. Decision-making skills. The top ones are more common. The bottom ones are more specifically, like, again, thinking about how you would problem solve a problem that you haven't seen before. If you were to get rid of one state in the U.S., which would it be and why? A good answer to that might be, somebody's going to be mad at me from a different state. Rhode Island. Because it's so small that it really could just become part of the neighboring states. I almost said Delaware, but I'm not 100% certain on that one. You could also say something like Hawaii, because it's kind of a middle state location. In the Pacific, it could really be anything. It should be like it could be anywhere. A bad one is this one, because it sucks. Which I think was an actual question that I had, or an answer that I had to that question. Being invisible or flying, again, really no wrong answer. It's how you defend your response. Okay, so if you had a choice between being invisible or flying, which one would you choose? That's a good question. I would prefer to fly, because I wouldn't have to worry about airport security. No, I wouldn't have to worry about travel. And it would be more useful to me in my daily life than being invisible would be. Or the other way. But it's what you say. If I had said, I'd rather fly so I don't have to worry about TSA, Travel Security Administration, I don't know. That might be a red flag. These are questions, too, that you can ask, like, on a date. I've done that before. I had a really terrible date once where the guy, like, would only answer one-word questions, and so we ended up, like, before the food had even gotten there, kind of being done with the dating part, and so I started asking, like, would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? That one didn't work out. No, stop it. I really want transition to be the right one. It's fine. At the very end, they're gonna ask you if you have any questions for them. The only wrong answer is no, thank you very much. Actually, another one is when do I get paid, or all this other stuff. That's stuff to figure out in the actual process of being hired. Or you should know that ahead of time how much they're paying you. So, here's a common one. Let me do this the right way. Do you have any questions for us? I do, actually. Thank you. And my favorite one, somebody like actually pulled out a piece of paper and had the questions there and they wrote it down, but irrelevant. You can do this just by your head too. A common answer is, what's the next step? That's one that I always ask. When am I going to hear from you? Because my anxiety goes, they haven't called me yet. They haven't called me yet. I'm not getting it. But good ones to ask that are kind of uncommon is like, what do you like best about this company? Or what's the culture like here? Or how much training will I receive when I'm hired? Those are good questions. And if they don't know, that's something that you might want to make sure that they can answer before you sign on. Because you probably have heard this before. You're interviewing the company as much as the company is interviewing you. Okay? So what that means is that you don't have to prove to them that you're the best for the job. You kind of do, but you also have to prove to yourself that they're a good fit for you. Okay? So if it takes 45 minutes for them to call you into their room without any explanation or apologies, if they don't know what the next steps look like, if you ask a question they're not sure about and can't answer, maybe if they offer you the job, you say, no, thank you, I've already found one, or no, thank you, I don't think I'm a good fit for this company. Okay, you're interviewing them just as much as they are interviewing you. So, those are some good questions to ask, but it's not limited to this list. Just like their questions to you aren't limited to my lists. Okay, you can ask them anything. I just would stay away from things like health benefits and pay and saying no. You really do want to have at least 2 questions to ask them. what was I don't remember. I highly suggest having some kind of question. And you really do want it to be one that fits the company. So do your research ahead of time. Don't ask questions that you could easily look up on Google. Don't do that. You really want to ask questions that you already searched for and legitimately want to know. And that'll depend on the company. If you're working in fast food, you don't want to say how many hamburgers am I supposed to make, or there's so just do a Google search for Reddit of this, because this is an entire section on Reddit, is all the terrible questions that somebody's asked in an interview, or really bad questions that, or really bad answers that people have had. It happens. Okay. I don't know if you have any questions for me. I don't even know if my stream is still clean. But that was a long... Again, I keep surprising myself on the length of these. That was a longer chat than I expected it to be. But hopefully it helps you. Maybe you'll come back. What I would do is before an interview, I would come back and see what your answers to these questions would be. Maybe email me if you have any questions. But we'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. And then if you have specific... like a specific goal. I have actual people on this that I wanted to give examples about, because I'm a teacher, and so I have actual people, and I didn't use their real names, but like somebody who really needed math support and was successful after that, or somebody who needed graduation support, somebody who was very badly placed and needed that kind of support. Those are some examples. Math, there's also math buzzwords like, how do you differentiate? What's your classroom look like? How do you use technology in the classroom? How do you plan a unit, right? Those are all teacher-specific things that either you'll get there or you don't need to know. Yeah, same kids actually on here. The boys, I had a group of boys that were super ahead, and they were in every class together because it was a small town. I really enjoyed them. And I had to make a separate class for them, basically. Ugh, my eye, guys, I should not wear makeup. Okay, let's see if I've covered everything. Be professional and confident. Okay? Look the way that you, look so that way you feel confident, and also so that way people don't judge you. Which sucks. It sucks to say, because I'm such a, ally, that, like, I want you to present the way you feel inside, and I want you to, be who you are 100%, and sometimes interviews suck if you're not yourself. But sometimes we just have to game the system so that way we get a job, and that we can be ourselves in the job. But don't lie about yourself either. So it's really interesting how that kind of works. Okay, so be yourself, be confident, be conservative. Gaudy jewelry, hide your tattoos, whatever. Answer the questions with a story. Be a storyteller. Don't just say one-word answers. You really want to tell them something that helps paint the picture of you. Come prepared. Figure out what stories you want to tell ahead of time and put them in the right spot. Sometimes they'll ask you what you wish they knew about you at the end. Like, what did we miss that we didn't ask? That's a time for you to slide in any stories that you forgot. One time I had an interview and I answered that question with, well, last night I had a migraine so bad I went to the hospital. And I did not get that job. And I am not surprised I didn't get that job. But they were really surprised because I got the partner version of that job, and they're like, you're a really good worker. Yeah, I just didn't know how to interview well in college. It's terrible. It was so bad. I'm so good at this. It's fine. Ask questions at the end. Do your research on the company, ask questions that you really want to know. You're interviewing them too. Most of the time, I've never done this. I've done this one time, I think. Most of the time, they tell you to send in a thank you letter. By the time I usually get to the point where I have a thank you letter written, they've already called me. So I haven't had a chance to do that yet. And it really doesn't need to be personalized, so you can't like write it ahead of time and then just slip it in the mailbox like as you leave. But it does help if you send like a thank you email where you say something like, hey, if you have any more questions, let me know, or if anything comes up that I need to address, please let me know. Those are options in an email, because we're in that kind of world right now. You're also, it's okay to ask people who are receptive what you can improve on. And sometimes they'll tell you that you're doing perfect and that you don't need to improve on anything. And sometimes they'll tell you something very specific, like, hey, maybe don't say this, or this is what turned us off. What usually they'll say is that we just found somebody that was a little bit more qualified. And that's just something that you have to kind of deal with until you become more qualified. And then they'll tell you that they wanted somebody who was younger than you and had more trainability. So can you tell that I'm not bitter at all? It's fine. Okay. I don't think you have any questions. Maybe you do, but that was my 5-point summary. And let's just recap though. So Mondays I'm doing this. Probably Monday I'll do cover letters. Important part of this trifecta. Resume, cover letter, interview. Lauren's going to email me some of the ideas that she found on Pinterest. Josie emailed me ideas that she came up with. I'm sure I have ideas in there. They're not 3 times a week ideas. So Wednesday next week, we're going to be live streaming my math notes for Algebra 2. And Friday next week, we're going to be live streaming my math notes for Algebra 1. That way you get a little bit ahead. And Monday, we're going to be dropping those notes at 10. So it'll be good. Okay. I think that's all. That's all I got. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully this was good and useful, and maybe will be useful later. That's my goal here.